It's really great to see that the Special Committee on the Canada-China relationship is already getting underway in the House of Commons. Now, you'll remember that this committee, when it was first voted upon, well, the Liberals tried to shut it down. Kind of like back during Lavscam when they wanted to shut down Ethics and Justice Committee hearings, they did not like this proposal, first put forward by Conservative MP Erin O'Toole, to have a committee of all the parties to sit down in the House of Commons and really examine the Canada-China relationship. Yes, the particulars of certain issues, but the whole thing, to take a step back and maybe get one of those resets that a whole bunch of experts and analysts have been urging. Well, the Liberals, they failed to shut it down because, oops, that's what happens when you no longer have a majority and you're now in minority government territory. And the opposition, including the Bloc and the NDP, they liked Erin O'Toole's idea. They approved this committee. So they had their first meeting on Monday, and as usually goes with committee meetings the first time around, the first one was relegated to talking about process and who's going to do what and who we're going to invite and so forth. But they did agree that they would invite our new ambassador to China, Dominic Barton. Bring him in and give us the lay of the land. Really important to hear from him, his take on what's happening. That'll give us a window into perhaps what's happening in China, but more likely, perhaps a window into how the Liberal government views all of this and how it can be that they are so seemingly not approaching this in any sort of rigorous way with a formal framework. You know, I urged a committee just like this to happen a number of months ago. I wrote some columns and did some commentary saying we need to do things like they're doing in the US. They have something called the Committee on the Present Danger that Donald Trump has only just convened to take a whole look at China and the rising global superpower that really threatens American dominance of the world in a number of spheres. What is China doing? What does China want? What is Xi Jinping saying? Where does he want to head his country in the coming decades? What does all of that mean for the United States? What does it mean for Canada? Go back and ask these rudimentary questions. Now, back in the 1940s, there was something called the Kennan telegram. An American diplomat stationed over in the Soviet realm, he wrote, George Kennan was his name, he wrote something now famously known as the Long Telegram, where he said, we've got to do something like this. We've got to talk about the Soviets, who they are, what they want, what their views are. We can't just base it on our own expectations. We can't project our own values onto them. We need to have a robust discussion. And they did in the Kennan Telegram. That played a role in informing how Washington actually got their game together to deal with the Soviets and to think strategically about it. That's the problem here. Canada's tactics are all flawed dealing with China because our strategy is, well, it's actually non-existent. Canadians want to have a national conversation about this. They want to open all this up and have it so we can all be a part of this. It seems like the Liberals just want to keep it all shut. Some prominent former Liberals, they just want it to be so shut that we just quickly do a prisoner exchange between Meng Wanzhou and Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor and then be done with it and go back to those nice business deals that were feathering some people's nests. I can name one person who's made that exact argument. Eddie Goldenberg, former chief of staff to Jean Chrétien, he made that argument over this past weekend in a Globe and Mail guest column. Unbelievable. It is unbelievable that there's serious people out there, people connected to Jean Chrétien, and by the way, Chrétien himself has winked at such a prisoner exchange, who would make this suggestion. These are guys who seemingly don't want to acknowledge that China is different now under Xi Jinping. It is not becoming more liberal and democratic and capitalist and all those things that people in the 1990s projected they would be. No, President Xi Jinping, he is really the most hardline leader since Chairman Mao. That's how everybody in the know describes the guy. So there's no caving to them. There's no nicey nice try and wash all of this over and pretend it didn't happen. No, we need to do with this committee and broadly in public opinion, and hopefully around the table with the Liberal cabinet, open up the issue. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle now, and really have a full discussion about the Canada and China relationship, because our entire future, for decades to come, depends on it.